Please welcome Shaku, Atre, and Esteban Kolsky for our panel, and we're going to drill into some of these ideas and get their perspectives on how you can start to take this and put it into practice within your own company. So just a quick introduction for people who don't know your work, which probably isn't anybody here, but maybe a quick introduction and just what you've been focusing on most recently, like a blog post or something people can explore afterwards.
I think I have mostly worked with data.
With data.
That's it. Data in various formats. And I picked that topic almost, 35, 40 years ago while I was working with IBM. Because I think data sits at the bottom of everything. And dirt collects at the bottom. Okay?
Esteban.
I don't think I can top that. I work with everything. I've been looking at customer stuff for 30 years, and I've been working with it in different ways. I have run call centers. I sat in call centers. I answered questions and implemented software. I did consulting. I'm an analyst. I don't have a simple view of the world. My world is really nice up in the clouds, but the thing where I agree with Shaku is like, to me, going forward, what I've been focused on in the last 2 years has been on business transformation. You can call it digital transformation if you want, or transformation or whatever, but how the business needs to evolve now that we live in a different society than we did 10 years ago. And at the center of all this is information, of which data is one of the core components. So that's what I've been working on in the last 2-3 years, and how I came to work with Actuate and work with Alan on this. Did that work?
Esteban, you can't have information without data.
I totally agree. I totally agree. We're going to disagree what information means, but I agree with you on there.
Yeah, but knowledge comes after information.
As you also discover about Esteban is I may have to sit between them.
I was going to suggest you sit in the middle.
It's not the first time, okay? That's okay.
Let's just say that was a preemptive move.
But I'd be nice going forward.
And besides, you are from the center of the universe anyway.
Very nice.
He's from
nice
Boston.
from Boston.
You're talking about me
Thank
again,
you very
right?
much.
Sorry.
So we talked a lot about customers and users, and when we talked before, it seemed like a nice way to lead into the panel was to get your perspective on users, right? What do users want? What do they need? How do we create apps? And you actually have a couple slides that can kind of lead us into that.
Yes, I do.
So let's start with, I think everybody agrees, right? It starts with the user, hopefully.
Yeah, but you know what? I mean, I worked for IBM for a number of years, like all of us have, directly or indirectly. And I left IBM, built up a company which was bought by PricewaterhouseCoopers, and it's still really what I found about the users, majority of them, I think they know what they want after they have seen what they have wanted. That means we have to be able to know what the users really need. And that's why when we talk about users, we are talking about with your companies, your customers. What do they need? Do you know about your customers? Have you tried to be in the shoes of your customers, knowing what it is like doing business with you? Okay, and nowadays, if you know more about them, then you can offer them whatever you think they need. So I have something which I just got this few months ago from StumbleUpon. And they sent this email to me saying you might be interested in these. Now, the first one, which is snacks under 50 calories. So they must have known I have tried to reduce weight for last as many years as I can think of. But those 50 calories, one strawberry, forget it. The second one, I love Donald Duck. I just love the cartoons Donald Duck. So I got those, saying, are you interested in this, imgur.com.
It looks like the latest edition, too. That looks pretty new.
He's from Boston. The third thing,
I didn't know that was an insult.
the
but
center of universe, they have to know everything. I'm from New York City, by the way. And never ever
Let's switch again.
use the word red and socks. Okay? Somebody over there is also from Boston, who I know. So I don't bring up the word Red Sox. I mean, they lost so badly.
This is going so well.
Okay, anyway, I belong to a movie club, and we see the movies, and so I got this one about the good films. And you won't believe this, but I did. I went to the 18,000 feet in the Himalayas. You would think I would lose weight by that, but no. Anyway, so I got these 4 because somebody was watching me, what I do on the web. So that's how they got to know me. Do you know about your customers? Do you know about your users, what they do? So that would be one of the things for you to think about, right? What the users do. So this is their DNA. I mean, that's the very popular word now, DNA. See, one of the things in computer technology we always have done, come up with terms. You just put 3, 4 letters together, there is some kind of acronym out there. Something is there.
I thought that's what the analysts do.
What?
That's the analysts.
Not all of us.
But you know what? There are analysts and there are analysts. There are analysts who have actually worked. There are analysts.
How come she's looking at me?
I should.
I know she's not looking at me. I'm just going like.
I should. I mean, who in the world here checks this 95% probability, 90% probability, 85% probability? Who does that?
Well,
You just look at it. If the number looks good, you just take it.
Sounds like a Gartner
anybody done
reference.
Afterwards,
I am
checked
not.
it?
I usually step in and say that that's not the way it works, but I'm
See
not
why?
going to take
That's
on
why
this
he's
one
sitting
now.
over there.
It's not 90%, it's 0.9. Okay, there's a scale, it's 0.6 through 0.9. 0.6 means, there's a very small chance that it would happen. 0.7 means it's likely to happen, but we won't be surprised if it doesn't. 0.8 means it's likely to happen, and we'll be surprised if it doesn't happen. And 0.9 is almost like a foregone conclusion, meaning that it's going to happen. And if it doesn't happen, the world came to an end before it did. So it's not like, 90% or 95%. It's 0.6 to 0.9. 0.5 and below is a guess, so we don't use it. 1.0 is a done thing, so we don't use that either.
I should have warned you he was ex-Gartner.
Esteban, I have master's degree in statistics.
But you don't have a master's degree in Gardneristics. It's a business model that is.
Well, that's the time to get to the next slide, I think.
Anyway, sorry.
Okay, so now we're talking about users.
Yes, users, not analysts.
Okay, not analysts. Well, you were one too.
Yes, I was.
Okay. Now, what is happening? The demography has changed as far as users are concerned. The technology-savvy people, especially when they are beyond 40, is going down. Okay? The business-savvy people, the percentage-wise, is going up because now they have access to all kinds of technology which is affordable, which is available, which is easy to use. So the business people don't have now this something like a IT temple. They have their own capabilities to do that. So the business-savvy percentage of users and customers is going up. Then the customers, young customers that you had the slide of before, those
kids on their phones.
That's going up. The less than 25 years. 25 is too old. So that's going up. And with that, see, we were talking about app, right? So I went to an insanely beautiful Apple store. And there, I wanted to get something for my banking application. So I said, I would like to have I want to do this and this and this. He said, you want an app? I said, does app mean application? He said, no app. This guy had at least 15 rings in the earlobes, in the nose, in the lips, and everywhere. Was definitely maybe around 20. He said, no app. I said, is it an abbreviation of application? He said, no, it is app. Then I said to myself, maybe he didn't understand the word abbreviation. Right? So that is going up. So we have to develop our apps to address the needs of all kinds of users like this. And as Pete had mentioned before, of course, we have to work with our 5 senses. So whatever we have now, we haven't even covered the ground because our 5 senses are still not covered. And those are your sight, hearing, taste, touch, and smell. So as we go further, most probably our apps will address those senses which haven't been addressed yet, because it has taken us millions of years to be where we are now. Those senses are not going to change during our lifetime. So if we think about what is going to come down to us after a few years or a few decades, I think we should think about those. And that means the sight, visualization, what is our interaction. Like I tell you something or I tell Esteban something, he's going to disagree, so he's not going to interact with me. So that's interaction.
It's my reputation, it precedes me.
Do you have a microphone?
Huh?
Oh, you have, okay.
No,
Easy deployment of the technology and cleverness used in the novel ways to show it to the people so that they will use it. And using analytics, those should be hidden. And that's why we are talking about embedded analytics. The users don't need to know exactly what they see, how they got there. They are not interested. They want to know the results. They are here, they want to see the results. And that's what the embedded analytics is, using analytics.
Great. Let me segue, if I can, into, interaction, information. Esteban and I first met each other probably when he was at Gartner and I was at Yankee Group, and you were doing Customer Interaction Hub and some of the early kind of interaction models at Gartner. It's funny, we're still talking about some of those same things in terms of interaction, engagement, and the deadly 360-degree view of the customer.
we don't talk about that anymore.
Finally, we don't talk about that.
Now we call I don't remember what we call it anymore. We have some new name, but yeah. We've been talking about this for forever. And like I said, I've been doing customer service or customer stuff for 30 years, and it's always been about the same. It should have been about the same, which is about customer has a problem, a question, a need, and then they come to the company, and the company needs to find a way to address that need. That's at the bottom line of everything. There's an interaction there. There's an interaction that requires a transaction. There's a transaction that requires knowledge, requires data, requires content, requires information to be addressed. So that hasn't changed. Still today, no matter how many devices we add and how much data we generate and how much noise and how much, you want to call it whatever you want. I'm the biggest anti-hype guy in the world. I don't call things big data and customer journeys and whatever, because it's all the same. It's about a customer who has a need and a company that needs to deliver. The amount of data is irrelevant. We have sufficient technology today to process virtually any amount of data that you want. When Watson can win Jeopardy, you know that we can process any amount of data that you want. So that's not the point. So the point is I agree with all these 5 points in here. I totally agree. I think that there's a big difference between an application and an app, meaning that an app is very small in nature and has a single purpose. And most applications can completely out of control in the last 10 years, and they try to do everything for everybody. So that's not the way we work. The way we work is we use apps. The way we do everything today is we use apps. We use single function applications that run in a mobile device, that run in a device that you have with you all the time, that do what you need to do, that leverage data, that leverage analytics, and it's all hidden from the user. And that's going to continue. But for that to happen, the most critical aspect is information. And you know, I have to confess that I didn't send my slides on time, so you're going to have to visualize this with me as we go along. But I built a model for transformation that I've been using with my clients that basically puts information at the core of everything we do. And it's really simple. We need a common infrastructure, which is what the cloud is these days. And the cloud does everything. We have applications, we have data, we have connectivity, we have services, we have all these things that you want to put in there. But the cloud is where everything is stored. And then what is stored in there is information. And information consists of three things. There's data, there's content, and there's knowledge, which are very different. Data is transactional. Knowledge is dynamic, content is static. And then you take this information and generate experiences for the customers and for the consumers and for suppliers and for employees and for everybody. The experience doesn't matter who it's addressing, it still leverages the same. It leverages the cloud to access existing systems, it leverages information, delivers an experience, and it gets delivered through any mobile device, any device that you want, whether it's a mobile device, Internet of Things, and a watch, you know, like we saw today, a tablet or whatever it is. So it's a very simple model. Everything that we do has to be geared towards collecting the right data, the right content, the right knowledge to deliver better experiences through any device to any customer. It's a very simple model that hasn't changed in 30 years. The only thing that has changed is the data that we have, the applications and the technology that we have behind it. We have the ability to process data far faster than we ever did before. We have the ability to store data much more than we ever did before. The cost of like a gigabyte of data today, my first hard drive was 5 megabytes, and I paid $3,000 for it. I mean, yes, okay, I know. It was many years ago. But the cost of storage today is negligible. The cost of processing is insignificant. You know, we were talking about it yesterday. Through Amazon Web Services, through Google, you can do anything that you want at any scale that you want. So it doesn't become about technology. It doesn't become about devices. It doesn't become about experiences. It's about how you can actually collect the best information to make sure you deliver experiences through any device from anywhere to anywhere.
So this sort of, we've talked about this information layer. We like that model because it's, you know, sort of synonymous with the information hub, which is the long form of iHub, that there's this place that does that, you know, brokering, collecting, managing, delivering.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about, I guess, embedded analytics, because Pete talked about it as a market. I talked about it as kind of a mission in terms of design.
Yeah.
I mean, embedded analytics sounds like that just fits into what you're saying is you're serving up that information in context wherever it fits, and some of that information is, it's the analytics that you've gathered and the processed information.
So when you look at analytics, and you look at it in two different ways, right? One is the result of analytics, which is what you use, and the other one is like what it does. The what it does part, the black box of analytics, is pretty much disappearing. You guys showed a couple of applications earlier today for query creation through a drag and drop interface. That was virtually, I could do it. You don't need a data scientist anymore. Anybody who understands the basic relationship between data can build a query. Once you have the query, you have results. When you have the results, then that becomes the data that you use in delivering these experiences. But the most important part of this is like, it's not actually how you do this, but how you deliver this. And the result of the analytics is the key part of this. What you're looking for is this insight, this knowledge that you didn't have before, this understanding of data that you didn't have before, that is going to be used in those apps. The apps need data to running, and that data, that insight comes from analytics. So at the end of the day, what you do with embedded analytics is like you're creating more opportunities where the data is processed faster and easier and deliver towards an outcome, which is to do whatever the app needs to get done.
Talk about so the ending point about outcomes. Esteban and I have talked about this a fair amount. How does outcomes fit in? Because there's all this technology. Ultimately, we're trying to create an outcome, right? This is back to the customer first, not the technology first.
Exactly. Now, let me give you one small example. I flew yesterday from New York to San Francisco. I got into the yellow cab and told him where. He asked me, where are you going? So I said, to Santa Clara Marriott. He said, okay. So I assumed he knew. We were out of the airport. So now I am delivered. I can't do much, right? I'm out of the airport on 101. He said, how do I get there? I thought this happens only in New York City. So now what do I do? Either I could have argued with him or I could have helped him. I wanted to get here because I had a meeting with these two guys. Okay, so I said, okay, let me help him. I had my smartphone. I downloaded the Marriott app, okay, and told him how to get there. Then he said, yes, sir. I said, are you from Italy? He said, yes, sir. So I said, you know what? I have been to Rome so many times. I go there every year to conduct seminars and so on. He was so happy. So now he said, you used phone. I said, yes, I did. So when we reached here, he had a smartphone. So I showed him how to use Google Maps. He was so happy. But he still charged me.
Well, but that's the outcome for him. His outcome was to make
Yes.
money. Your outcome was to
Yes.
get here.
Yes.
That's when both outcomes go,
Yes.
you co-created value, essentially.
I know. So that is the outcome.
Yeah.
For the user, he got whatever he can use now in future. So you have to equip your customers so that they buy more stuff from you. Right? So it's really self-help. When you are helping them, you're helping yourself. Right?
That's a good outcome.
Yes.
So-
But and it also goes back to like where I started when we started this whole thing. I mean, customers want outcomes. They don't want apps or like
Exactly.
websites or telephone calls or whatever. They want an outcome. If I have a question, my outcome is I need an answer, and I don't care how I get that answer. If I get it through an app, great, I'll get it through an app. If it goes through a website, it goes through a website. If I have to go to a store, it goes through the store. I need an outcome. And to get to that outcome faster and easier, and going back to what Shaku was saying earlier when she talked about like how they get to know her, all this data already exists. We have like so much data that we generate. Somebody calls it the digital exhaust. Everything we do generates data. Yeah, everybody here has a smartphone, right? Okay, how many people downloaded Flappy Bird? Nobody? Come on, somebody did. I know you did. There you go. See, there's at least a few. So here's the funny thing. When they downloaded Flappy Bird, they didn't look at the permissions, but they gave the Flappy Bird publisher permission to access their contacts. So now the Flappy Bird publisher knows everybody that you know. Not only that, but he also gave them permission to know where you are at all times. So the guy who actually created Flappy Bird knows where you are at every single time. Every single moment that you have the smartphone on, they know where you are. They don't use the data, but they could if they wanted to.
Sure, they don't.
They could if they wanted to, right? And that's the thing. It's like, everything we do produces so much data that to get to know who we are and what we do, it's so easy. All we have to do is process data. We can process any volume without any problems. The question is not processing. The question is like, what's the outcome that you're looking for that? Knowing where you are every second of the day doesn't give me anything unless I need to know where you are at a specific time. And that time happens to be by my store, and I can give you a coupon so you come into my store and spend the money. So it's all about the outcome that I'm trying to do as a company. It's all about the outcome that you're trying to generate as a customer, and how both those get together. And analytics makes that happen. And the ability to process this data in real time is so much better than we used to do. Because in the old days, you would have gotten, I would know where you are, but like 2 weeks later, you get a mail there that's saying, hey, because you were by my store 2 weeks ago, why don't you come back and spend some more money? And now I can do this in real time. And that's the value of real time and better analytics. It's the fact that we can do these things in real time, and we can use all the data that we have access to in real time.
What also makes it back to my point about relevance, right? Is relevance is a function of that real time. Often, if you miss that opportunity, it's not relevant anymore.
That's right. And that's why, this is my advice from me to you. If you have a data warehouse or if you store data anywhere, don't do it anymore. Throw it away. Once the data goes by, and once the time goes by, it's absolutely useless. Storing tweets from 3 days ago is the most useless use of your time and storage devices that you can do. I mean, make sure that you move your business to be transformed to be a real-time business, or else you're going to be left behind. Because reacting to a tweet from 3 days ago doesn't do anything today. By now, the customer either left, told all their friends how horrible the service was, or did something else about it and went to a competitor. So it doesn't matter what I can do 3 days later. Make sure that you move into real time, and for that you need embedded BI. You need the ability to do these things in real time.
Yeah, and you see, what I did yesterday, I had this slide in my mind. Okay, now. Visualization, I showed him. Because he was speaking with his hands. So I spoke with him with my hands. So that means for interaction, you have to speak the language of the user.
Well, you identified that language that you could use.
Right. I mean, I don't know that much Italian, let's face it. Okay? But whatever broken I know I can use my hands.
So you know a lot of Italian then?
Yeah. So it worked. Look, visualization, interaction, easy deployment. I didn't explain to him about application, abbreviation, and all of that. I just said, okay, you want to go, where do you want to go? I said, where are you going from now? So he told me where. So I said, okay, try this. It worked. It was very simple steps. So that was the interaction, easy deployment, cleverness, because he thought it is very clever. I mean, now he doesn't have to call people, dispatchers, and all that. He could use that. And there was something in it, which was analytics. I didn't want to tell him. I mean, this guy, he understood Roma. That's it. And that was it. So I didn't go beyond that. But under the cover, we have data. And we have to use it. So if you get my next slide.
That's a good segue for how do we use this data? How do we create process to do this?
Right. So now I put together, and this is, and the next one is not necessarily done by the ones who are only analysts. Okay? I have made my hands dirty in IBM, installing hardware, installing software, and pray that it would work. Okay? Then I was in charge of runaway projects at PricewaterhouseCoopers, where I was the partner. Okay, so now this is one template for telecom. We are talking about 3 groups here. Industry, in this case, let's say telecom. Then you have the consumers, and these consumers are maybe talking to these other consumers or other companies. You mentioned before, you talked about 2 interfaces, B2B and B2C. There are 2 more. C2B, which is very important for you. What are the customers telling you? They may not be telling you directly, they may be telling you indirectly. Some of them are telling you by using their feet out. Okay, so that's C2B. And then C2C is just equally important, because when I'm buying something, I look for the reviews of the other users like me. So that's C2C. So we have 2 more models of the interfaces. So with this now, this publisher of the app is creating data or creating the app for the consumers and small and large business owners. And now they are communicating also with the telephone manufacturers, independent telephone services providers, and so on. If you have noticed now that Android has surpassed now, as far as the number of applications are concerned, as compared to iPhone. I mean, I like iPhone, but I like Android better. So, and of course, that's a cult. So it's very difficult. When the emotions start, logic ends. So that's that. So we'll keep that to that. So now with this template, what I have done further is that I went further into details about this. And I'm not going to read this.
There's a quiz on this later.
What was that?
A quiz.
A quiz, no. No, I'm not going to read this, but what it is here is that we are talking about the customers or the consumers on the left-hand side, and they are creating data by using your sites and you are collecting customers' data storage. Then you have customers' transactional data, what they really bought, or why did they leave, abandon the cart? Why did they leave that, or how many are doing it? Then you have the manufacturer's potential customers' data storage. Then there is external data that is on the top here, external data storage. All of that is collected now in the real-time data storage. And that is the most important part, real time. People don't have time anymore, right? The days are changing. Maybe you are too young to relate to what I'm saying, okay? But 1963 album, think about it, that's a quiz.
So
Okay.
as we wrap up this session,
Actually, if I can say, so the most interesting part for me on this is the two red things.
It's
Although the two red, the box and
Yes,
the
it's the
storage.
real time.
So the real time make it happen logic box, which is where we're heading as a business. If you're not heading towards moving your business into real time, you're going to be left behind far faster than you imagine. I mean, when I was a Gartner in 2003, 2004, we took on the theme of the real-time enterprise, which, by the way, was one of the biggest flops ever by Gartner, a 0.0 probability that it would work at the time. But we took on the theme, and we started getting people to understand that, real time, near real time, the right time, and things like that. And it was way too early. But today, with the technology that we have, real time is the way that you need to transform your business. Because your customers are not going to wait for you. Your suppliers, your partners, your allies are not going to wait for you. And because your competitors are already going in that direction. So, I mean, you need to understand that, the key part of all this is, all this stuff that we're talking about is about making your business become a real-time business. Everything that you do needs to be geared towards becoming a real-time business. Because, it may sound like, a little far-fetched today, but at the speed that we're moving today, the way that we shorten cycles, when you have releases from some vendors that go weekly, monthly, or quarterly at the worst, then we're talking about something that is going to change in the next 2 years so fast that you won't have time unless you actually get into this model right now.
Yeah, Alan, I have just one question to ask the people. This looks complicated. It is not, and I'm sure you have opportunity today to look at the various demos and so on. So learn that. That will be very good for you to do that. Now, my question, last question to you, is anybody from Santa Clara here? Okay. What I'm saying is that don't take everything to the extreme. You keep your common sense. Is there something wrong with the water in Santa Clara? Is something wrong? Because in our hotel rooms, there is a water bottle for 500 milliliters, $5 from Norway. That is green taken to the extreme. Okay? That means 1 penny for a drop of water. Why? Is there something wrong in Santa Clara with the water?
It's got to be better than Vegas, where it costs $12 for the same bottle.
What was that?
In Vegas, it costs $12 for the same bottle. So.
Okay, so keep common sense. That's it. Thank you.
why don't I give Esteban the last word as well?
The last word. I don't have a last word. I gave you the last word, become real time. But seriously, in 1960, okay, let's say 3 for lack of a better reference, and I'm wrong on this, but in 1963, there was a publication that said, data is the blood of organizations. You probably read this somewhere in your books, in college. Or the biggest asset we have is data. The biggest, our customers are data. Everything. We've been talking about data for like 50, 60 plus years now. From the beginning of computing in the 1940s, we've been talking about data, and we still don't know what to do with it. And we keep getting better tools and better processing power, and we still don't know what to do with it. And the bottom line is it's really simple. It's data is what represents transactions. So look at the transactions to understand the patterns. Use analytics to take these insights out of it, and then use your systems to transform your business into a real-time business that leverages these insights and these patterns to deliver better better value to your customers. It's as simple as you can get. I mean, I hope. Now, if you want to do it, then we can talk about a 3-year engagement and the whole, consulting.
Oh, man.
But it's a model. I work in models, so
That sounds like Gartner.
Gartner would never charge for 3 years.
We're gonna end on that note. Thank you very much to Esteban and to Shaku.
Thank you.